The Director General of the National Pension Commission, Mrs. Chinelo Anohu Amazu, and 2 other Nigerians appointed members of the London Stock Exchange Africa Advisory Group. Also on the program, Moody's Investors Service says the continued decline in oil prices is hurting not only sovereign borrowers worldwide, but also state governments. Plus, we will look at Exotic Partners' report on Africa's economy with the title Frontier Africa Amidst the Rubble, Some Germ. Hello and welcome to the midweek edition of Business Incorporated. We're glad you could join us. I am Bolaji Akinwale. We will begin with the story on the Director General of the National Pension Commission, Mrs. Chinelo Anohu Amazu, who has been appointed as a pioneer member of the London Stock Exchange Africa Advisory Group. Mrs. Anohu Amazu is one of the high-level financial experts from the African continent appointed by the London Stock Exchange to provide advisory services on how best to deepen the African financial markets. The group was unveiled at the just concluded inaugural meeting of the advisory body hosted by the London Stock Exchange in London. Also appointed were members drawn from the 3 largest stock exchanges in sub-Saharan Africa: the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, Nigerian Stock Exchange, and Nairobi Securities Exchange. Among them are the Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian Stock Exchange, Mr. Oscar Onyema, and the Chairman of Seplat Petroleum Development Company, Dr. Ambrose Bryant Chukweloka Ojiako. They're expected to continually examine these issues and advise the world, hopefully change the narrative for the African capital markets for the better. And Moody's Investors Service says the continued decline in oil prices is hurting not only sovereign borrowers worldwide, but also state governments. In an analysis titled Oil-Dependent Sub-Sovereign Borrowers, Moody's analyzed states and provinces in 5 countries, namely Nigeria, Brazil, Russia, Mexico, and Canada. According to the report, oil contributes about 42% of Nigeria's state revenue compared to Mexico, where oil makes up just 8% of revenue generation. The research analysts say that this shows Nigerian states are the most reliant on oil for revenue, with limited capacity to absorb fiscal shocks, while states in Mexico were the least dependent. Moody's adds that while Canada's 3 oil-producing provinces are more reliant on oil revenue than Mexican states, they have a higher degree of financial flexibility. And it is the morning after the terror attack that rocked Brussels airport, and trading at the European markets has gone halfway. Let's talk to DWTV Channel Civic correspondent Conrad Busin to get details on how the market is performing. Hello, Conrad. Welcome to the program. Now, on most European stock markets, prices are climbing despite yesterday's terrorist attacks in Brussels. Why is that?
Yes, the German DAX, the stock index here, has climbed above 10,000 points again. Maybe a bit of patriotic buying is what we can see here, but also some reason. You know, in the past, individual terrorist attacks did not manage to really influence the economy negatively, at least not for long. The terrorist attacks in Madrid and London in 2004 and 2005 are 2 examples for this. And that's why also today most investors are convinced that we will not see a long-term and very negative impact of the terrorist fear on the economy. That would be different, of course, if we had to face a series of terrorist attacks, a sustained series of terrorist attacks that would likely weigh on business sentiment, of course, and on business investment and consumer spending.
Some good news there. But the euro has come under pressure, though. What's behind that?
It is renewed speculation about what we can expect in terms of interest rates in the United States. Yesterday and the day before, several Federal Reserve officials gave interviews where they hinted that the situation in the US economy is not bad and that an interest rate hike in the United States could happen even before summer. And that's a bit of a different scenario than most people on the financial markets had on their minds until now. So this is behind the fact that the dollar is driven upwards and the euro is coming down. Also, this is an example that people on the markets, also the currency markets, might talk a lot about what's been happening in Brussels yesterday, but they rather turn towards business and economic topics in terms of their investment decisions.
Now, what other news is driving trading, Conrad? Any positive earnings reports?
Oh yes, many positive earnings reports have come in today from very different companies. Let me start off with Hermes, or Hermes, the French luxury firm that managed to come in with very strong earnings. It's managed to beat analyst expectations with their earnings. And this is particularly noteworthy because so many luxury firms had problems in China last year. Remember, we reported about Burberry or Hugo Boss having problems on the Chinese market, but Hermes, on the contrary, managed to boost its sales in Japan and in Europe so much that the problems that also Hermes had and the receding sales in China could be offset. Consequently, the sales of Hermes on all its markets rose by 18% to nearly 5 billion euros. That's very strong news, even despite a quite hesitant outlook on 2016 that Hermes has been giving. Investors are buying the share today. Here in Germany, a couple of not so glitzy, not so renowned companies came in with solid earnings too. For example, Norma, which is a car parts maker, also Deutsche Euroshop, which runs and operates shopping malls, solid earnings. But you know, in times like this, with all the talk about terror, it's already good news that companies manage to run their businesses according to plan. So I would say that people in the financial world, despite the concerns about Brussels and the terror, at least have a little something to be confident about.
Okay, we hope that is the case at the end of the day. Thank you so much, Conrad Busen, the WTV Channel TV correspondent, reporting live from the Frankfurt Stock Exchange. Still to come on Business Incorporated, we will be talking about how African countries are stabilizing their economies despite the various challenges they face. We'll be right back.